Hey, church. Hey, our character study today finds us looking at perhaps the most famous person in the Bible. And as I was looking through our list, I noticed we haven't even covered it. And it's this guy, Moses. How can we miss out on Moses? You know, we think of the movies we've watched and all the times we have uttered his name. He's all over the Bible, and we haven't talked about this guy. So let's do that. Over 1,000 years after Father Abraham is coming on the scene, we have this guy that comes out through the Jewish ranks, and this is this guy Moses. And he comes along when they are his people, God's people, are slaves in Egypt. And we've often heard about this stories, and I always want to say, why don't they make a movie out of this? And they have made movies, but it never gets old because it's so interesting, the ups and downs of Moses' story. He is where we get the Ten Commandments. We get a glimpse of who God is, and we build our theology around him meeting this God for the first time, hearing his name for the first time, and how he leads his chosen people, as he's talked about, through Moses, and they eventually end up in this promised land. And then we find out that Moses would dictate the early Jewish history and see this new God to them walk through the Old Testament times with them into the New Testament times. But and another 1,000 years later, the Jewish leaders would mention Moses' name once again as his disciples. So Moses lives on long after he's gone. I wanted to do it a little differently today. We're going to talk about 8 things that we could be reminded of about Moses' life. Number 1 is that he was a Hebrew. Obviously, he came from the Jewish line, we know that, but he came from the tribe of Levi. Levi would be a prominent tribe of those who took care of the sacrifices and were especially close to God. He was the youngest of 3, Miriam, his sister, and his older brother, Aaron. Secondly, he was a special boy. His name means drawn out of the water or drawn out of the river, because during his 3 months, God was protected him because Pharaoh wanted to kill all the boys in Egypt, especially the Jews. And his mother hid him in a basket and put him out in the river where Pharaoh's daughter found him. And that's where we'd find out the third thing about Moses, is that he was actually adopted into royalty. What an amazing adoption story. And just like the Ten Commandments movie, if you've seen that, you have Moses and you have Ramses, and they're trying to win Pharaoh's favor about being the next Pharaoh themselves. I'm not sure about where that's found in the Bible, but it's a great movie. But here's what Hebrews says about what Moses chose instead of royalty. It says, Moses chose to be mistreated with his people rather than enjoy the pleasures of sin for a short time. Isn't that interesting? And there's more to the story, because number 4 says that Moses was a murderer. Wow, we don't hear that a lot. We don't talk about that a lot, but what an awful choice he makes is he kills this Egyptian because he's mistreating one of the slaves. And Moses kills him and slips him in the sand. Well, this didn't sit well with Pharaoh as he sought to kill Moses, so it ends up being what number 5 is, and because of this, Moses fled and was afraid. You can only imagine the consequence. I wouldn't recommend this, by the way. And he runs for 40 years away from judgment. And so when he finally shows up again, he is in fear as he stands before the bush, and he is first introduced to this new God, that great I am. We learn his name. And because of this, number 6, Moses becomes a courageous leader out of this. God is with him and fills in all those ticks, these weaknesses perhaps of Moses, how he couldn't speak and he was scared and often emotional. But God walked with him. And through Moses and Aaron, they would go before the king of all the land and tell him what he needed to do. And through the miracles, God honored that. This and all that because of this. Number 7 is Moses was close to God. So close that he said, hey, God, I want to see your glory. And Moses was able to see parts of God that no one else has seen ever. He knew God intimately to the point where he says, the Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love and in faithfulness. And then finally, number 8, Moses was buried by God. That's significant because God secretly buried his servant. Some would say that he took Moses away like he took away Enoch or Elijah in this kind of a gloriful kind of brought glory to Moses by that. Or some people would say he did this secretly so that they would not build an idol to Moses or worship him. So whatever you believe, we could see a guy who made huge mistakes. He was prone to fear and often around emotion, and that got him in trouble. Yet he was able to become one of the closest to God ever. A lot we can learn from Moses, and I appreciate your time today. Thanks, church. We'll see you again soon.